Hello gamers, it is time for another episode of Let's Play the Repopulation.
Hello gamers, I am Tigwyk, this is the Repopulation, and in tonight's episode I was hoping to show you some of the easier recipes that you can perform, some of the ones that require less ingredients, maybe only a heat source and some sort of main ingredient, and that'll get you on your way to skilling up whatever main crafting skill you're working on there. And get you, so that you don't have to waste a bunch of ingredients on the more elaborate recipes. So, starting with, I think, because you get shown this in the tutorial, Purified Water is one of the easiest that you can do. As you can see, I'm just going to close and open that. As you can see, the ingredient is only contaminated water, which you can get very easily using the skill down here called Scrounge for Water. If you have Scrounge for Water, you can wander around pretty much anywhere outside of major cities. If you're outside of that on any sort of other terrain, you can hit Scrounge for Water, and the grade will depend on usually how dangerous the area is and other things. Like, I think there's bonuses if you're actually near natural water, like a waterfall or something like that. But aside from that, it'll be mostly based on the difficulty of the area that you're in, which determines the water you get. And then you just throw the contaminated water into here, into this ingredient, and Purification Tablets, which you can buy, or you can make very simply as well. And I'll show you how to make them. So, if you're out and about, and you're mining, you want to look for, I think it's Aqueous. And Aqueous has borax and iodine. Iodine can be easily broken down into these tablets, these water purification tablets. If you have iodine in its raw form, all you have to do is go into the mining tree for recipes and go to mineral breakdown. And if you throw, I don't have an example down here somewhere. I'm sure I do. This is probably iodine. No, it's gypsum. Well, if you throw iodine in here as the main ingredient and a heat source such as firewood, because firewood's very easy to come by, especially if you just care about, if you don't care about the quality of the firewood. If the firewood is, just grind quality, if you're just going to use D or F or whatever firewood, then you should be fine to simply log some trees, make some firewood, very simply using, very simply using the hardwood or softwood or specialty lumbers. So you do that, you get some firewood, throw some firewood in here for the water purification tablet. And once you've got your water purification tablet, you can throw that into the purified water here. And since you make a certain amount of those tablets, I think you make like 5 or 10 of those tablets, you end up making a bunch of purified water as well. So I think for 5 contaminated, you end up with like 10 purified or something like that. Purified water is used in other culinary. So it's good to throw in, you'll need it in various cases for other stuff here. And there's a couple other interesting places where it's used. So just, it's not a bad idea to use that to skill up culinary in the beginning and then move on to some of the, maybe tea or something, some of the easier culinaries to work on. If you're doing distilled water is the other easy one. That is simply more contaminated water and another heat source. So distilled water is used in a bazillion different things. Very necessary. I highly recommend you make distilled water in chemistry for yourself. You can buy it, but unless you have money, you're not gonna, you can just easily make your own distilled water so easily. All you need, again, is a heat source, such as firewood, and some more contaminated water, which you can scrounge. So again, it's pretty much, for the most part, free, aside from spending your time. It is cost-free to go and get these resources and throw the contaminated water and the heat source in here and create distilled water, which is used for a bazillion things. And that's why I have a lot. I have several hundred distilled water on me. I'm constantly using it. I'm constantly buying it because, yes, I can make it, but I need to buy it in higher qualities these days. This is not a good example of that. This is very low quality, but I think I was asking for people to send me low quality, and that's just because I was grinding various things. So distilled water is the one under chemistry that is like super simple to get into. Chemistry is very daunting. Everything within chemistry apparently needs other stuff from within other places. So I wouldn't really, at this time, if you were a noob, I wouldn't really recommend going into too many different chemistry things because you might get frustrated with how much you have to get. So the distilled water is one of the easier ones to start raising up your chemistry until you feel maybe confident to actually make some I don't know, at least you won't be failing some of these recipes that need it to be, you know, D quality or higher to make some ingredient. There's some that have those restrictions, and you just, you know, you don't want to waste very important, expensive, hard to find ingredients on a recipe like that when you can just do distilled water for the first little bit to get your chemistry skill up. And plus, distilled water is used in so many things that it pays to have your distilled water up there anyway. Let's see, what else? Mining is just about, like, mining and logging are very simple to get into in general. They take, again, wood and contaminated water in this case, and you get firewood and some planks of some sort. That's super simple. You can go out and log trees just by having an electric saw. That's what this is over here. As long as you have that, you can equip that in your slot over here, the tool slot. And when you go out and touch the interactive trees, there's only certain ones that are like that. But you go and you right click on the interactive tree and you log it for the very basic wood. You come back here and you can skill up your logging by doing hardwood, lumber, softwood, specialty. They all contribute. Obviously, the recipes just mean that you get better product out of it, but they all level up your logging skill. And you can go so far as to get some neater things if you do chemical extraction or destructive distillation. But at the beginning, it's so easy to just, you know, do hardwood, unless you're looking for glue. And glue is from, I believe I know it's from Hudson Fir, and I believe it is the softwood distillation. So you throw your Hudson Fir. Let me see. Do I have an example? Yeah. So this is all Hudson Fir. If I had any on me, which I do not, you'd put Hudson Fir in here, a heat source, and some distilled water. Again, distilled water. There it is. It's used. You will get glue, and glue is super, super useful for a lot of stuff too. So these are all things that you can kind of work towards. Distilled water is a big one. You can, if you want, you can try and compete with the big dogs and be the distilled water guy. I don't know if anybody actually is yet. I've seen it at high, but I think people just get it high up, skill up because they need it that high for their own stuff. I don't know if anybody's really specializing in distilled water, but if you want to be that guy, you can be that guy. There are people specializing in glue. I think they're maybe getting a little bored with it. So you might at this point, just if you're watching this video at the time it's released, have an opportunity to get back into making glue. Also, since a lot of the population has dropped off, so there's not a lot of high-end glue on the market, but there is a lot of mid-range. Like I can make, I don't know, B9, and then make an A0 if I'm lucky glue, right? So I can make stuff that I can cope with. But if I'm looking for like A9, I'm going to be looking to someone like you if you decide to go that route. So again, logging is fairly easy to get into with the hardwood lumbers and softwood lumbers, and the distillation gets you other more advanced stuff. And in this case, glue is that route to kind of money and being known. Because if you're known as the glue guy, then people will come to you, right? I would stay out of installations as a noob. Even I'm looking at installations going, bleh. It's just, unless you really, really, really want to do your own custom housing, I mean, I would just be careful. It's easy to get lost in installations, and installations require bits of metalworking and carpentry and everything else, chemistry and tailoring, because you're building very complicated furniture pieces and stuff, and housing, and all those require bits, and they make it difficult. They make you very interdependent on the other crafting skills, and so you'll need to have friends that are good at that stuff. Mining is great. So mining is like logging. There's a lot of the recipes in mining that are very easy to get into, such as ore refining. Takes simply one ore and 2 refinement agents, and that's how you create the end resulting, say my calibrite here that has physical penetration and momentum retention on it. That's because I used various refinement agents to make it come out as the stats I wanted. And so ore refining is easy to get into, and if you don't want to waste your good minerals on ore refining, you can do plate metal fabrication. So you can make plate metal, which is also, I think, here. Yep, this is plate metal. So plate metal is great for whatever recipes need it, and there are a bunch, and those ones try to opt out of using your precious metals, your decorative metals, your useful metals like copper and stuff, because those a lot of them can all have stats on the bars, and plate metal is for things that don't really need stats at all. They just need a piece of metal to meld into some wire or something like that. In this case, I guess not wire, but there are, recipes where it makes sense that you wouldn't want a metal bar that could possibly be used instead for a fitting. So they make you use plate metal, and plate metal is really simple to manufacture. You take any ore, pretty much any ore, so even your trash ores that you have no idea what to do with, and low grade. Well, you don't want it super low grade. The ore is what matters, so don't let it go too low. I mean, B, C, depends on what you want out of your plate metal, but just be aware that the grade of the ore is what's really going to affect your outcome. And then throw in 2 minerals. So, 2 of some of the, whatever minerals you just can't figure out what to use other stuff, with other things. There's your go-to. And some flux. Flux is going to be the one that you might have a harder time with as a newbie, but you can get it fairly easily if you go and do a lot of foraging, because some of the plants can be broken down to have cellulose as a side product, which is, easy for you to get. There's also minerals like borax, and you can turn into a flux or use borax as a flux by itself. There's a few others you can get. Your easiest bet is probably going to be getting cellulose from other people in the beginning. I end up usually having, like cellulose, and luckily recently I've been given a bunch of flux so that I don't have this problem of worrying about it. Because in the past I would always have to source some flux somehow, whether I make it myself or buy more on the market. But flux is the one thing that you'll always be in need of if you're going to be doing any sort of mining or metalworking. It's needed, and you're always going to be looking for people donating flux to you. It's just kind of how it works. As a newbie, like I said, it's going to be a little bit harder to get, but if you ask around, you might even get some donated to you as long as it's burner grade. If you just want F or D or whatever flux, I'm sure people will mail you, buttloads of it, right? There's a few others in mining that will that are fairly easy to do as well. Like basic alloy only takes 2 different ores and 2 more refinement agents, and so iron and tungsten. Iron and tungsten make steel. Things like that. So, that's not that far away from what you might be able to do if you've already been mining a whole bunch and you happen to come across an iron area and a tungsten area, and now you can combine them and make a steel bar. So, it's pretty easy to get into, right? Breaking out of mining, I think metalworking, mining has electrode plates, which everybody wants. Electrode plates can use decorative metals of any sort, palladium, platinum, silver, gold, apparently even calibrite at one point. That's probably history from before the patch. Okay, the decorative metals is all it takes now, so a flux and a decorative metal gets you an electrode plate. That's really super simple, and there's lots of places around Rylden where you can find decorative metals. Alluvium is what you're looking for. Alluvium is the node that has decorative metals, so like gold, silver, platinum, palladium. And if you have them in large quantities, electrode plates will be your friend. People always want them, so if you're willing to scale it up, people will pay if you put them bulk on the market, because everybody needs them for batteries and stuff like that. They're heat sinks. So heat sinks aren't that hard to make either, but at this point you do need glue. So if you have not been making glue, then you'll need to buy some, and it's not that hard to find. It's just you won't find very good quality for cheap. You'll need to pay to shell out if you want the good stuff. The cheap stuff should be available pretty easily. You just combine distilled water, glue, and some sort of ore. I think it has to be iron or a couple others like that, and you end up with a heat sink. Again, fairly easy to make. The glue might be the stopper, but again, you should be able to do it, by the time you've kind of worked through some of the others that I suggested. And and then of course I've already told you how to get glue or what glue is going to require. And, so you shouldn't have a problem making this once you kind of follow the steps in this one. I kind of want to wrap it up because those are the ones that I started with, and there might be a few others, but those are the ones that really got me going. And again, it wasn't very hard to get into them. I had a lot of resources built up from just running around and mining stuff because there was just stuff nearby to mine. Didn't matter what quality it was in the beginning, and it was really easy to just turn, all my calibrite that I've found, there's plethoras of calibrite, right, everywhere. Calibrite, you can just turn it into calibrite bars, right, and raise up your mining skill just with the ore refining. Super simple. Logging, same sort of thing. You can go around and find a bunch of trees nearby, because there's trees fairly close to most of the major cities that you're going to start in. And there you can just go do logging and raise up your logging just by turning trees into firewood, and then you get the firewood, and the firewood goes into other stuff, and it supplies you with what you need to do the other basic recipes, and those supply you with what you need to do the more advanced recipes. They feed into each other. You'll hit a point where you can't really do everything on your own without really skilling into everything. And it's not worth it at that point. You can try and be a jack of all trades, but you will waste a lot of time, and it's just not worth the effort. So I recommend at that point sourcing out a nation, perhaps a crafting nation that suits you and can supply you with what you need, and maybe you can supply them with a different product that you create from the ingredients you're given, and it'll be like this cool symbiotic relationship with the nation, right? So yeah, I think we're done on that one. So if you like my content, please do hit the thumbs up below the video. If you subscribe, then you'll see that there's a lot of stuff coming about every week or so right now. And please do leave a comment, because I love to reply to those, and I like getting the feedback. It really helps me gauge how things are going and where I should go next with these videos. So I will see you in the next one. Have a good one.